Hello, and welcome back to the garden. There's a quiet revolution taking place in plots like this one, a rediscovery of something profoundly valuable that we've somehow managed to forget. For centuries, our ancestors cultivated vegetables of incredible power. These weren't the pampered uniform crops you find in supermarkets today. These were plants that fed entire villages, that thrived in the most challenging conditions: poor, stony soils, relentless pests, unpredictable weather. They were the very definition of resilience. These forgotten crops delivered yields that many modern hybrids, with all their chemical dependencies, can barely compete with. They were packed with nutrients and a depth of flavor that has been bred out of their modern counterparts in the pursuit of shelf life and cosmetic perfection. It's a strange thing, isn't it, that the very vegetables that sustained generations, that formed the backbone of our culinary heritage, are now almost completely unknown to most of us. But their seeds, their stories, they haven't vanished entirely. In this film, we're going to pull back the curtain of time. We're going on a journey to uncover these lost treasures of the medieval garden. We will explore vegetables that outperform their store-bought relatives in nearly every way, from their robust nature and astonishing productivity to the sheer delight of their flavor. It's time to bring these ancient champions back to our gardens and our tables for a truly unmatched harvest. So, come with me. Our first subject is a plant with a name as grand as its utility, Good King Henry. Now, this isn't a vegetable you plant for a single season's reward. It's a true perennial, a plant that, once established, will come back faithfully year after year, becoming a reliable friend in the garden. In spring, its tender young shoots can be cut and cooked just like asparagus, a real seasonal treat. Then, as it grows, the leaves can be harvested and used precisely as you would spinach. Even the flower buds are edible, steamed like little broccoli florets. It's a true multi-purpose plant. What I find so remarkable about it is its complete lack of fuss. It asks for so little. It will happily grow in rather poor soil. It's not bothered by much in the way of pests or diseases, and it just gets on with the business of growing. This resilience is something we've lost in our quest for horticultural perfection. Good King Henry is a reminder that a plant doesn't need to be coddled to be incredibly productive. The flavor is rich, earthy, with a mineral tang that speaks of its ancient lineage. A truly noble plant for any garden. Next, we have a root vegetable that has all but vanished from our tables, and that is a real tragedy. This is skirret. It was once a staple of the medieval garden, prized for its cluster of long, slender white roots. Imagine a carrot, but sweeter, with a flavor faintly reminiscent of a parsnip, but with a unique peppery hint of its own. It forms a generous clump of these roots, so a single plant can provide a very satisfying harvest. It's a wonderful vegetable for roasting, adding a surprising sweetness to a winter meal. One of the most practical things about skirret is its tolerance for less than ideal conditions. While it appreciates good soil, it's known for its ability to grow quite well, even in stony or heavy ground, sending its roots down and around obstacles. It's a real survivor, and like its cousin the parsnip, its flavor benefits from a good frost. The cold encourages the plant to convert its starches into sugars, intensifying that wonderful sweetness. It's a perfect example of a crop that works with the seasons, not against them. Now let's talk about a pair of truly intriguing root vegetables, Salsify and its close relative black salsify, or Scorzonera. They are often called the oyster plant, and while that might sound a little strange, it hints at the unique flavor they possess. When cooked, they have a delicate, slightly sweet taste with a savory quality that many people do compare to oysters or perhaps artichoke hearts. The texture is smooth and satisfying, a real delicacy that has been sadly overlooked. Black salsify, with its dark, almost black skin, is often considered to have a slightly finer flavor of the two. What makes them so valuable for the home gardener is their resilience and adaptability. They are largely untroubled by the common pests that can plague other root crops. Furthermore, they are excellent for breaking up compacted soil. Their long tap roots drive deep into the ground, improving soil structure for whatever you choose to plant next. They also tolerate partial shade better than many vegetables, making them a superb choice for those slightly less sunny spots in the garden where a carrot or a parsnip might struggle. They are a truly low-maintenance, high-reward crop. Here is a vegetable that offers a double reward, and one that is perfectly suited to the changing seasons. This is Keltuchi, sometimes known as stem lettuce. As the name suggests, it's grown for two distinct parts. Early in its life, you can harvest the outer leaves, which have a mild, pleasant lettuce-like flavor, perfect for salads. But you must be careful not to take too many, because the real prize is what comes next. The plant will bolt, not in a disappointing way, but by design, sending up a thick, fleshy, succulent stem. It's this stem that is the main event. Once peeled, the crisp, pale green core is revealed. It has a wonderfully refreshing texture and a nutty, almost cucumber-like flavor. You can slice it and eat it raw, or add it to a stir-fry where it remains delightfully crisp. What's more, Keltuchi is remarkably tolerant of heat, a quality that makes it invaluable in the summer garden when traditional lettuces give up and turn bitter. It grows quickly, providing a fast and unusual harvest that is both a green and a stem vegetable from a single plant. Now for a vegetable that brings a taste of the wild coastline into the garden: sea kale. This magnificent perennial was once foraged from the shingle beaches of Europe and became a highly prized delicacy in medieval times. It has large, sculptural blue-green leaves, making it a rather handsome plant in its own right. But the real treasure lies in its forced shoots. In late winter or very early spring, you can cover the crown of the plant with a pot or a bucket to exclude all light. This is a process known as blanching. In the darkness, the plant sends up pale, tender shoots that are incredibly succulent, with a unique flavor, a subtle blend of cabbage, asparagus, and a delicate nutty saltiness that speaks of its seaside origins. These blanched shoots were a true luxury, a much-anticipated sign of spring's arrival. Being a perennial, once you have an established clump, it will provide you with this gourmet harvest for many, many years to come with very little effort. It's a wonderful, permanent and productive addition to the vegetable patch. The parsnip is, of course, a vegetable we are still familiar with, but the parsnips you find in the supermarket are a pale imitation of the heirloom varieties our ancestors grew. These older types, like the hollow crown or student, possess a depth of flavour and a robust constitution that modern versions often lack. They were bred not for uniformity on a shelf, but for survival and taste. They are incredibly hardy, capable of withstanding the harshest of winter weather, and in fact they demand it. The magic of the parsnip happens in the cold ground. As with skirret, frosts trigger a chemical change, converting starches into sugars and developing a complex, nutty and intensely sweet flavour that is the true hallmark of a proper parsnip. They are the ultimate storage crop, not in a shed, but right there in the soil. You can go out into the frozen garden, break through the hard earth, and pull a fresh, sweet parsnip for your dinner. It's a direct connection to the resourcefulness of medieval gardeners who relied on the earth to be their larder through the leanest months. Long before the string bean arrived from the Americas, the fava bean, or broad bean as we often call it, was the king of legumes in the Old World. These are honestly one of the most ancient plants in cultivation, and their resilience is legendary. They're unique among beans for their remarkable tolerance to cold. You can sow them in the autumn, and the young plants will happily sit through the winter frosts, ready to burst into growth at the first hint of spring, giving you a wonderfully early harvest. But their benefits, they go far beyond an early crop. Fava beans are a vital part of a healthy garden ecosystem. Like all legumes, they have this special relationship with bacteria in the soil. allowing them to capture nitrogen from the air and fix it into the ground. This means they actually enrich the soil as they grow, leaving it more fertile for the crops that follow. They ask for very little in return, producing enormous yields of protein-rich beans even in quite poor soil. They're really the perfect embodiment of a plant that gives back more than it takes. Few vegetables are as emblematic of hardy Northern European cuisine as the leek. It's a member of the onion family, but it lacks the fiery pungency of its bulbous cousins, offering instead a mild, sweet and savoury flavour that just deepens and mellows with long, slow cooking. In medieval times, it was an absolutely essential crop, a reliable source of fresh green vegetable matter throughout the long, cold winter months when little else was available. Its importance is even enshrined in folklore and national identity, particularly in Wales. The leek's superpower is its incredible hardiness. Varieties like the Musselburgh or Bleu de Soleils can be left in the ground right through winter, shrugging off snow, ice and freezing winds. You simply go out and pull them as you need them. They're also remarkably pest-resistant. The onion fly that can decimate an onion crop largely leaves the leek alone. This combination of culinary versatility and sheer toughness made it an indispensable part of any garden designed for self-sufficiency, a true pillar of the winter kitchen. The turnip has a bit of a reputation problem, often associated with poverty and blandness, but honestly that is a grave injustice to the hard-working heirloom varieties that were a cornerstone of the medieval diet. We're not talking about the modern watery globes, but robust, flavourful turnips like the purple top white globe or the golden ball. These were bred for productivity and toughness, and they really delivered on both counts. They grow quickly and can be sown successively for a continuous harvest from summer right through to winter. The true genius of the turnip is that it's a dual-purpose crop. Not only do you get the sweet peppery root, which is wonderful roasted or mashed, but you also get the leaves. Turnip greens are incredibly nutritious, packed with vitamins, and have a delicious, mustardy bite. They can be harvested sparingly while the root develops, or you can have a final, generous picking of greens when you pull the root itself. In a garden where every square foot counts, a plant that provides two distinct harvests is worth its weight in gold. Every garden should have a plant that you can rely on. One that you can almost completely neglect, and it will still be there for you. For me, that plant is sorrel. This perennial leafy green is, well, practically indestructible. Once you plant a clump of sorrel, you will have it for years, if not a lifetime. It emerges very early in the spring, often one of the very first green things to appear, and it will provide you with leaves right through to the first hard frosts of autumn. Its flavour is its defining characteristic, a sharp, tangy, almost citrus-like taste that comes from its oxalic acid content. It's this vibrant acidity that makes it so wonderful in cooking. A few leaves can cut through the richness of an oily fish, or be wilted into a creamy sauce to give it a surprising lift. Sorrel soup is a classic European dish for a reason. It is incredibly productive. The more you pick it, the more it seems to grow. For a near-zero effort, perennial source of unique flavour, sorrel is simply unmatched. Here we have another of those wonderful dark-skinned root vegetables that has fallen into obscurity, and that is Scorzonera. We mentioned it briefly alongside Salsify, but it truly deserves its own moment in the spotlight. Its name comes from the old Italian Scorzonera, meaning black bark, which perfectly describes its appearance. It was also known as viper's grass, as it was once believed to be an antidote for snake bites. While we can't vouch for that, we can certainly attest to its culinary virtues. Beneath that unpromising black skin lies a delicious, creamy white flesh with a flavour that is often described as being finer and more delicate than Salsify. It has a wonderful sweetness and a subtle, nutty quality, almost like almonds or hazelnuts. Like its cousins, it is incredibly resilient, growing well in various soils and suffering from few problems. It's another of those brilliant winter vegetables that you can leave in the ground and harvest as needed, its flavor only improving after a touch of frost. It is a true gourmet vegetable hiding in plain sight. Now for a vegetable of truly epic proportions, the Mangelwurzel. The name itself is wonderfully evocative, coming from the German for scarcity root. This is essentially a very large type of beet, but it was bred not for delicate salads, but for sheer bulk and hardiness. In the 18th and 19th centuries, it became an incredibly important crop, primarily as winter feed for livestock, but its history as a human food source goes back much further. These things can grow to an immense size, with roots weighing 20 pounds or more, not being uncommon. While primarily used for animal fodder later on, younger, smaller Mangelwurzels are perfectly good to eat, with a flavor similar to a sweet, earthy beet or chard stem. The leaves are also edible when young, much like spinach. Its real value, however, lay in its incredible productivity and its excellent storage qualities. A small patch could produce a huge amount of food, and the massive roots could be stored in a root cellar or clamp for months, providing sustenance through the bleakest part of the year. It's a monument to agricultural productivity. If you appreciate the flavor of artichokes, then you'll be fascinated by its close relative, the Cardoon. This is a dramatic and architectural plant, a thistle-like vegetable that can grow to be quite enormous, with silvery, deeply cut leaves that make it a stunning feature in any border, let alone a vegetable patch. While it does produce a flower similar to an artichoke, it's the leaf stalks, or petioles, that are the prized edible part. These were a delicacy in medieval and Renaissance Europe. To prepare them, the stalks need to be blanched to make them tender and to remove any bitterness. This was traditionally done by tying the leaves up together and wrapping them in straw or sacking for several weeks before harvest. The resulting blanched stems have a wonderful, complex flavor, very much like an artichoke heart, but with a celery-like texture. Cardoons are also exceptionally drought-resistant once established. They're deep taproots, able to find moisture where other plants fail. It's a beautiful, useful, and resilient plant. Long before the crisp pale celery we know today became a garden staple, there was Alexander's. This plant was everywhere. It was a common sight in monastic gardens and kitchens across Europe, a truly foundational flavoring. It's a biennial, sometimes a short-lived perennial, and it has a strong aromatic taste that is somewhere between celery and parsley, but with a unique, slightly spicy and myrrh-like note of its own. Every part of the plant was used. The leaves, the flower buds, the seeds, and most importantly the stems. The stems can be peeled and cooked, imparting their powerful flavor to soups and stews. In fact, it was one of the most important pot herbs of the Middle Ages. It's an incredibly easy plant to grow, often found wild in coastal areas, which hints at its tolerance for salt and wind. It self-seeds readily, so once you have it, you'll likely have it for good. It represents a lost world of flavor, a taste that was once common and is now almost completely forgotten, pushed aside by its milder-mannered cousin, celery. Here is another magnificent perennial herb that deserves a place in every productive garden, Lovage. This is a truly statuesque plant, capable of growing up to 6 feet tall in a single season, with lush dark green leaves that look very much like a giant's version of flat-leaf parsley. And its flavor is just as big. It has an intense celery-like taste, so much so that a single leaf is often enough to flavor an entire pot of soup or stew. It's the very essence of celery, concentrated and magnified. Like Alexander's, every part of the Lovage plant is useful. The young leaves can be used in salads, the older leaves in stocks, the stems can be blanched and eaten as a vegetable, and the seeds can be harvested and used as a spice, much like celery seed. It is incredibly hardy, dying back to the ground in winter and re-emerging with great vigor each spring. A single plant will provide you with more than enough flavoring for a whole year. It is the definition of a low-input, high-output plant. Now for a vegetable that is as charming as it is useful, Rampion. Many of you might know it from the fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm, where Rapunzel's mother craves it so desperately. This gives you a clue as to how popular it once was. Rampion is a type of bellflower, and it's grown for both its nutty flavoured leaves, which can be used in winter salads, and for its small, white, parsnip-like root. The root is the real prize, with a sweet, nutty taste that has been compared to chestnuts. It's a biennial, so you sow the tiny seeds in spring or summer, and it forms a rosette of leaves in the first year. The roots are then harvested through the autumn and winter. If left in the ground, it will send up its beautiful spike of pale blue bell-shaped flowers in the second year. It's not a high-yielding crop in the way a potato is, but it is adaptable, growing well in light, sandy soils, and provides a delicate, unusual flavour that was clearly cherished by our ancestors. It's a little piece of fairy tale history you can grow yourself. Sometimes the most valuable plants are the ones we spend our time trying to get rid of, and that is certainly the case with Purslane. Many gardeners will recognize this as a common, low-growing weed, but in many parts of the world it is a cultivated and highly prized vegetable. It is a succulent with fleshy leaves and reddish stems, and it thrives in the hot, dry conditions of midsummer when many other greens are struggling. It seems to appear from nowhere in poor, compacted soil and just gets on with it. What makes Purslane so special is not just its resilience, but its incredible nutritional profile. It is one of the richest plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids, which are vital for brain health. The leaves and stems have a slightly sour, salty taste and a wonderfully crisp, succulent texture. It's fantastic used fresh in salads, adding a refreshing crunch, or it can be lightly cooked like spinach. To think that we pull this out and throw it on the compost heap is a real shame. It's a free, delicious, and incredibly healthy superfood. We've spoken about parsley grown for its leaves, but here is a variety that was grown for a completely different purpose. This is Chervil root, or turnip-rooted chervil. Like its leafy cousin, it belongs to the carrot family, but it was selected over generations for its swollen, conical taproot rather than its foliage. The leaves are fern-like and have a mild aniseed scent, but they are secondary to the main event, which is harvested in the autumn and winter. The root itself is small, about the size of a small carrot or parsnip, and greyish in colour. When cooked, it has a truly exquisite flavour, a rich, flowery texture, with a taste that is a complex blend of chestnut and potato, with a sweet, aromatic, nutty quality. It was considered a great delicacy. It requires a bit of patience, as the seeds need a period of cold to germinate, but the reward is a unique and sophisticated flavour that you simply cannot find in any modern supermarket. It's a taste of a more refined medieval palate. Here we have a vegetable of boundless energy and almost frightening productivity, the Jerusalem artichoke or sunchoke. Despite its name, it has no connection to Jerusalem and is not an artichoke. It is in fact the tuber of a species of sunflower, native to North America but introduced to Europe in the 1600s, where it quickly became a staple. It is famously, and I mean famously, easy to grow. Plant one tuber and the following autumn you will have a dozen or more. It thrives in the poorest of soils and requires absolutely no care. The knobbly tubers have a crisp texture when raw and a wonderful, nutty, sweet and artichoke-like flavour when cooked. They are superb roasted or made into a silky, creamy soup. Their vigour is both a blessing and a curse. You must be sure to plant them where you want them to stay, as they are very difficult to get rid of once established. But for a guaranteed heavy crop of delicious tubers from the most neglected corner of your garden, nothing can compete with the Jerusalem artichoke. In the quest for a continuous supply of fresh greens, medieval gardeners relied on plants that simply refused to give up. A prime example is this, perpetual spinach. Now, the name is a little misleading, as it isn't a true spinach at all. It is actually a type of chard or leaf beet. However, it was given this name for a very good reason. Unlike true spinach, which is quick to bolt to seed in the summer heat, perpetual spinach just keeps on producing its tender, tasty leaves all season long. You can sow it in spring, and you will be harvesting leaves from it right through the summer, the autumn, and often in a mild winter, right through to the following spring. It is incredibly productive. The more you pick it, the more leaves it produces. The flavor is milder than Swiss chard and very similar to true spinach, making it an excellent substitute in any recipe. For any gardener who wants a reliable, cut-and-come-again green that bridges the hungry gaps of the seasons, perpetual spinach is an absolute essential. The onion family is full of resilient characters, but few can match the sheer tenacity of the Welsh onion. Again, the name is a bit of a misnomer. It has nothing to do with Wales, but likely comes from an old German word, Welsche, meaning foreign. This is a perennial, non-bulbing onion. It doesn't form a large bulb like a common onion, but instead grows in clumps, much like a spring onion or scallion, but on a larger, more robust scale. Its great virtue is its permanence. You plant it once, and it will form a clump that slowly expands year after year. You can harvest from it by simply cutting what you need, and it will regrow. You can also divide the clumps every few years to make new plants. It is incredibly cold-hardy, and the green shoots are often one of the first things to appear in the garden after winter, providing that much-needed fresh onion flavor long before anything else is ready. It's the gift that keeps on giving, a permanent patch of onion flavor for your garden. We've had parsley for leaves and chervil for roots, and here we have a plant that, well, brilliantly combines the two. This is Hamburg parsley, also known as turnip-rooted parsley. It was a staple in Central and Eastern European kitchens for centuries. It looks much like regular flat-leaf parsley above ground, and indeed its leaves can be harvested and used in exactly the same way. They have a strong, robust parsley flavor, perhaps a little more intense than the leaf-only varieties. But beneath the soil, it's a different story. It produces a thick, tapering taproot that looks very much like a pale, thin parsnip. This root is the real reason for growing it. When cooked, it has a wonderful, unique flavor, a combination of parsley, celery, and carrot, with a sweet, nutty finish. It's fantastic in soups, stews, or simply roasted alongside other root vegetables. It's another one of those wonderfully efficient, dual-purpose crops that gave medieval gardeners maximum return for their efforts. The sweet, tender garden pea is a summer delight, but its ancestor, the field pea, was a far more robust and versatile crop. These are the peas that were grown for centuries, not just for eating fresh, but for drying. Dried peas were a vital source of protein that could be stored and used throughout the winter, forming the basis of thick, nourishing soups and pottages like peas pudding. Varieties like the Cardoon or Blauschoker are beautiful in their own right, with purple pods and flowers. Like fava beans, field peas are legumes that fix their own nitrogen, improving the soil for future crops. They are generally tougher and more tolerant of poor soils and cooler conditions than their sweet modern cousins. By growing these ancient varieties, you get a double harvest. You can pick some young pods to eat fresh, and then leave the rest on the vine to mature and dry. It connects you to a cycle of growing and storing food that was fundamental to survival for generations. Sometimes you don't need a large, substantial vegetable, but a quick, fiery burst of flavor and nutrition, and for that there is cress. We're talking here about garden cress, or its semi-aquatic cousin, watercress. Both have been used since ancient times for their distinctive peppery taste. Garden cress is astonishingly fast-growing. You can sow the seeds on a damp piece of cloth, and within a week or two, you'll have a crop of microgreens, perfect for adding a spicy kick to a sandwich or a salad. Watercress, which thrives in cool, running water, was foraged from streams and became one of the first vegetables to be commercially cultivated. Both are incredibly nutrient-dense, packed with vitamins and minerals. In a medieval diet that could be heavy and monotonous, the sharp, clean, peppery flavor of cress would have been a very welcome addition. It's the simplest form of gardening, providing a rapid and rewarding harvest with minimal space and effort. Our final vegetable is one of uncompromising power and resilience: horseradish. This is a perennial root crop that, once you have it, you will have it forever. It is legendarily tough, vigorous, and almost impossible to get rid of, so you must plant it with that in mind. It will grow in almost any soil, in sun or shade, and requires absolutely no attention. You simply leave it be, and its long, tapering roots will develop their famous fiery heat beneath the ground. The root itself is harvested and grated to create the pungent, eye-watering condiment that we know. The heat comes from a compound that is only released when the root cells are crushed. A small piece of root can produce a large amount of sauce, and a single plant will provide you with more than enough for a year. The best time to harvest is in the autumn or winter, when the flavor is at its most intense. For a zero-maintenance source of powerful, homegrown flavor, there is simply nothing else like horseradish. So there you have it, a glimpse into a lost world of flavor, resilience, and extraordinary productivity. These aren't just historical curiosities. They are living, breathing solutions to many of the challenges we face in our gardens today. They ask for less, yet they give so much more. By planting a patch of Good King Henry, a row of Skirret, or a clump of indestructible Sorrel, you are not just growing food, you are cultivating a connection to our shared agricultural past and building a more resilient, more flavorful future in your own back garden. I wholeheartedly encourage you to seek out the seeds for some of these remarkable plants. Step away from the familiar for just a season and try something new that is, in fact, very, very old. You will be rewarded with tastes you've never experienced, a harvest that shrugs off pests and poor weather, and a garden that is more productive and interesting than ever before. It's a wonderfully rewarding journey to take. If this exploration of our forgotten vegetable heritage has inspired you, do consider subscribing here to Nature's Blueprint. We have many more stories from the world of plants to share. And please, share this film with any friends, family, or fellow gardeners who you think would appreciate rediscovering the incredible power and potential of these medieval crops. Until next time, goodbye and happy gardening.